which has been made, which concerns the expenditure of funds. I want to be clear. The council has spent zero money on investigations. Zero. The only people who have spent money have been the administration. And Mr. Schwab should be on duty. We restored him to duty. The mayor restored him to duty until he reported the mayor's misuse of the senior low income program. So whether it's 100,000, it's probably more than that because we've hired somebody else to be giving us reviews. It's not a finance director, but a finance person. So when you look at the totals, this is where it's got $10,000. Mr. Schwab has got an X amount of his salary, and whatever else was been paid to this finance person. But we, as council, have asked him to be restored to duty. There's no reason why he should not be restored to duty based on the information that we have at this point. And in fact, everything that points us to issues points us to not just one person, but several people. So let me just say this. However much money this is, it is not due to the council's expenditures, period.
The rebuttals from the administration.
Hi, Mr. Dimloff. I'm Joe Beamer, the whom you've written so kindly about. Would you mind taking an oath before you testify further about some of my questions? I'm happy to.
None called for.
Do you mind? We got a court reporter here. I'd like to. You've used the
Uncalled
word
for.
conflict. You've used the word criminal. You've used the word unethical. We'd like to make sure that your statements are something you're willing to stand under oath.
That's right.
If you're willing to do that.
It's not necessary.
One more time.
Well, I just want you to have decorum.
I think our law department would know if it's necessary or not necessary.
Well, that law department
It's
is
not
also in
necessary.
Baker Heights.
Vince,
Can you keep it quiet
We
here?
lost that one.
Listen, let's just keep quiet and listen to what they have to say. Please no other disruptions, okay? We can all listen and let them have the floor.
Are you willing to take?
Are you willing to take one too?
Absolutely. I'd
Of
like
course
you
you would
to
be.
as well.
Listen, we have not had
Can
anybody.
you not interrupt again, please?
Oh, I'm going to.
It's an hour and a half. An hour and a half, the council has had the floor, and Mr. Dimmoff. Can the administration have a laugh?
Well, it
I
says,
plead for your understanding here. This is quite unfair. Why invite us if it's going to be a kangaroo court? The three of you could have had your own meeting with Mr. Dimmoff. You didn't need us.
are you going on like this, or are you going to allow for me to just say something?
Can I move on?
It's typical.
Certainly you can move.
Okay, thank you. Are you willing to take an oath?
Are you willing to take a polygraph?
I'll take a polygraph. Will you take one?
That was my question.
Absolutely, I'll take
Then
it.
take an oath of office tonight. Why do you want to respond with a different question?
Because, you know, we've been talking about integrity all night.
Okay, then let's move on. You don't want to take an oath.
I want to take an oath in a court of law. I want to have a discussion here, and I don't think my integrity is in question here.
You have said things that are in question, and why are you talking to the audience? The agenda said you were supposed to be here tonight to present the council and the administration, and you've had your back to them the whole time.
I will talk to the people of the city because it is my belief that the people of the city are the ones that suffer the most. They're the ones who get the positive and negative from this. I want to clarify, Mr. Gamer, I will answer all your questions tonight because I have integrity. And I want to tell you that, including with Jan, the reason I did not interview council, including the people that are responsible for
That was
payment,
one of my questions.
including you, including Jan and the mayor, is because why would I interview the people that are being accused? And what would that further? I need to talk to people outside that who objectively can give me the truth. And you want to talk about a kangaroo court? You're trying to turn it into one.
That's right.
And I'm going to tell you, professionally, I will answer every one of your questions right now.
Then let's do
If
that.
I can't, then I will tell you I can't, and I would like to accommodate you. And let's move forward as you have asked,
That's all
and
I
I
ask.
appreciate it.
That's
Thank
all
you.
I
Last
ask.
question, you said you didn't interview us because you didn't want to interview those who were accused.
I did people here that were accused, such as the mayor and Mr. Deemer, and Mr., you know, and I did not want to get influenced by the council. At the beginning, I had hoped to interview the council, and I determined and decided not to interview council members on purpose because of the division of the political stuff, and I wanted to stay away from that kind of influence. And we soon found out that we needed to seek people that had nothing to do
Okay,
with.
you answered my question, because your statement said the accused, and I wanted to know what.
You were not included in the accused, Jan.
I heard that.
My mistake, I apologize if you took it that way.
So
Go ahead, let's
I'm trying to
proceed.
keep my questions concise, if you can keep your answers concise.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I understand you don't want to go under oath, and that's your decision, you don't have to. But I understand, and I take it as though I am under oath, and I'm not going to ask you anything that I don't have some basis for. Now, your 37-page report, did you calculate how much of that was actually quoting Mary Beth Wertz, and how much was actually your findings or SACS's findings?
The beginning of the report has exactly what Mary Beth Word said, and I did that as a convenient for.
So like, wouldn't it be like half the pages are quoting her?
Well,
and-
it's easily half of the
Okay.
first part of the report, and it's done so that the citizens know what she said, what we're investigating, and what we're reporting. I did not want anything to be a mystery of what we were focusing on.
I just asked you the number of pages quoting Mary Beth Wertz. That's all I asked. And you agreed, yeah, probably less than that.
Yes, sir.
Now, the number one item on your front pages was the scope of your services. The number one item was to investigate any wrongdoing or improprieties by Scott Spot. Is that correct?
That is correct.
You went on tonight for 65 minutes plus, and only 5 minutes of it was about Scott Spot's erroneous things. The rest were about anybody who touched Scott Spot or said anything unkind about Scott Spot. Now, is there any reason why tonight you spent most of your time talking about everybody else but him?
Now, that is an incorrect statement on your part. I spent a considerable amount of time. I went over approximately 8 issues about Scott Stapp. I read 7 polygraphs. I went
Mind
over.
looking at me when you're talking? I'm talking, I look at you.
I went over 8 issues, and I described them, and I was talking to everybody here and everybody to my right, and I disagree with it on that fact
Okay.
that I spent 5 minutes only on Scott.
Now, you understand that there are whistleblower laws in this state. If any employee were to give you their name and sign an affidavit like they did for our investigations, if anybody were to retaliate against them, there are federal and state laws to protect them. You're aware of those laws, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm very
Okay,
aware of
so you could have told those individuals, please, sign something like the other people did. Did you do that and tell them about their whistleblower rights?
I'm glad you brought that up. I didn't want to get
The
into
answer is
that.
simple, yes or no. Did you tell them?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
The answer is not simple. I did identify the whistleblower laws. The responses from numerous employees were, yeah, you can believe all you want about whistleblower laws. I'm going to tell you how it's been here for the last X amount of years. And if you don't believe me, go back and ask certain people who have been intimidated. They did not believe the whistleblower laws would protect them, unfortunately.
Okay. Well, you mentioned the Medina case, I believe, earlier in your report, and that time violations are important, even if they're small. And I believe you mentioned the Medina case. Is that right? The auditor in the county of Medina?
I said there was a case that they are accusing a guy in Medina of improper use of time or money.
So let me help you with that. I have the actual Medina court charges and plea that came against the county auditor, Mr. Kovac, and he didn't just get charged, he actually pled guilty. And he's been sentenced already. And he was found guilty and pled guilty to using his office computer at the county, which was owned by the county, and using that computer while on duty. Were you familiar with that case at all?
I'm not real familiar, I just know that he was charged with some improper use of.
Would you agree that using a computer while on duty would be considered a crime? At least improper behavior.
The auditor of state said there
Why are you
wasn't.
interrupting?
I'm interrupting because you're trying to say something that has already been refuted by the auditor, sir.
You can't interrupt
Well, I can interrupt him. Listen, he's trying to
You don't
make this
trust
a
your
prosecutor.
investigator? If you don't
No,
trust your investigator, why is it?
I'm saying to you that you're bringing up an issue that the auditor of state investigated because you provided that information and they said to you, there's nothing
That it
to
doesn't
it.
rise to the level of criminal behavior.
No,
But
it's,
it
no,
should
they
be.
said there was no basis for charging
Mayor,
anybody
can we
anything.
keep some order here? I mean, I never interrupted Mr. Dimhoff.
I'm just saying, that is going the wrong.
You would agree that that would be an improper behavior, would you not?
No, the use of computer while working is a very, very touchy area, it's a very gray area. Basically, the amount of time that someone uses a computer for personal is taken into consideration, how often, how long, where they are, what they're, could it lead up to an accusation of that? Yes, it could.
Okay, did you receive our supplemental report to council from October of 2014 documenting on-duty time by Scott Schwab, 125 pages of personal work for Canal Fulton or his bee business while he was checked in on duty in the city of Macedonia? Did you review those?
I was made aware of it.
You didn't review them.
I reviewed some of it.
And who gave them to you?
I don't remember
Okay. Is there any reason why in your 37 pages or 12 of your writing, you didn't mention those?
The use of the computer had been reviewed by the auditor. My understanding that the auditor cleared them of that and said there wasn't any cause there. So based on that, I did not pursue that.
Okay. Now, there were a lot of things in your report that the auditor had already touched on. A lot of things. And you chose to still talk about them and report on them and investigate them. Your goal, as I understood it, was not just to investigate criminal behavior, like the auditor's report says. Your goal was to any improper behavior that would justify a civil termination of employment by a municipal building. Now, why did you not comment on these emails?
As I stated in the beginning, we were provided so many accusations, numerous accusations. And I stated again at the beginning, Mr. Deemer, we went $8,000 over in our investigation and absorbed it. And I stated, I stated again, we did not have the ability, money, or time to investigate everything. And I stood here and I will say it again to everybody, we absolutely, the truth is, I just didn't have the ability, time, and money to look at every single thing. We had to pick what we considered the major accusations, which I was presented. Now, if council and Mr. Deemer would want to appropriate another $25,000 to my team, I will come back with answers to those that I cannot answer because we didn't have the money or time to investigate. I personally don't think it's necessary. I think you have plenty to debate, plenty to digest, but I will stand here and tell you, absolutely, we did not look at every single thing that happened, but we looked at the major accusations that we were presented. As an offshoot to that, people started telling us about other major issues. We investigated those. They started telling us about additional investigations and stuff, and we stopped.
Why do you just want to keep going on? Talk with me. I'm asking some questions. The county of Medina thought it was important enough to indict a county fiscal officer, their finance director, for using the computer on duty. You say you were given these 3/4 of an inch or an inch thick of 125 pages of work being done on duty. I just did 2013. And I have this email from January 28th of 13, back and forth between him and officials at Canal Fulton. I have his time card there, showing his time he checked in, his time he checked out, the total number of hours he put in for pay, and then I have the times on these time sheets showing he was here, he was on duty, and on his computer owned by the city. You didn't think that was important enough to investigate for any improper behavior?
If we looked at Scott Schwab for that, I would need to look at every employee.
But you
in
were
the city.
hired for one person, Scott Schwab,
I'm trying to say, why are we prejudiciously picking on Scott or anybody else?
because he was charged by the mayor.
Mr. Deemer,
and
as
terminated.
law director, I would ask you to check every email of every employee in Macedonia, and you will have no employees left.
See, now
If
you're-
it's based on email use to personal, because you have to deal with the fact, and I'll bet you 10-1, you personally
So-
have sent personal emails out during the day. And I'm not gonna condemn you or anybody else for sending emails. If you feel that that was an obsession or an overuse of emails, and the council feels that way, then they can make that determination. But I'm here to tell you, every single employee in this city sends personal emails. Where am I, as an investigator, to draw the line?
I see.
I draw the line on the major accusations, and I come back with the truth. If you want to major in minor, you have chosen the right guy.
So you think 125 pages of personal emails on duty that the county of Medina thought was serious enough? But in your mind, because everybody does it, it's okay. I bet you everybody in Medina County does it too, right?
Hey, I don't know to what extent Scott did it to.
Well, I wanted to go through these with you and you keep interrupting me. I started with one, I showed you the day and the time. But you never even looked at these, did you?
I looked at him, I cannot consider him sending personal emails as a major issue for this city when I'm sitting on other leadership misappropriating funds. I've got a law director asking a person to forgive a $130,000 personal loan.
That's it, just keep repeating what your accusations are.
Yeah.
We'll get to all of them.
Yeah.
And I see now why you don't want to go under oath, because what you're saying would get you in a whole lot of trouble. Now,
This is a council meeting, it's not a court.
we'll move on to the next subject.
Could we
Vince-
read the disclaimer? You've never read this disclaimer, you keep making these
Jan,
accusations,
please.
and you really need to say this disclaimer.
Go on, Mr. Deemer.
That this
I am
investigation's led to the discovery of this unverified information.
Yeah.
It's
Some of it-
unverified.
some
Stop
of it
talking
is
about it, just
unverified.
answer the question so we can all get home.
Jan, some of it is unverified, some of it is verified.
You
Sorry
wrote on here
if
unverified and underlined. How do I know then what's what? You didn't say that.
I clarified
I'm sorry,
tonight.
Mr.
I
Chair.
clarified tonight.
Mr. Deemer, please go on.
I will clarify again, some of it is unverified, some of it is verified. I clarified tonight what was verified. I am sorry
You have,
for the
you have,
misunderstanding.
you have dealt with and now are reflecting the experience with not only my conflicts with Scott, Mike's conflicts with Scott, the Gitano's conflicts with Scott, finance department employees' conflicts with Scott, the mayor's conflicts with Scott. Everybody's had conflicts with Scott, the engineer, the planner, and yet you're saying it's all us, not him. So, and you're reflecting what he does, attack everybody else. Let me talk about the first finding you had where you talked about falsification of public records. This is the OTNR report. You glossed over that rather quickly, saying it was no big deal, nobody stole any money. You stated in your findings, what Scott said. Mr. Schwab stated in his interview that backdating invoices is common practice. You accepted that. Did you go to any other finance directors and ask them if that's common practice? Because I've been in 13 communities, I've never known one that thought that was common practice. Did you ask anybody? That's easy answer, yes or no?
Yes,
Okay, how many?
several.
Okay, they go on record or they don't want to show their names either?
Their response is, communities do those things to get things done, but I'll never admit to it.
I see. Okay. And there must be a reason why they won't admit to it, would you say?
I would agree.
Okay, you had indicated further under the first allegation that you pretty much were just quoting what Scott said. And Scott, in his report, which you reviewed, he wrote an email to council on September 17th in response to our first charges against him. And in that, he said, I called ODNR Aquatics Grant Administrator Sean Landon and asked if the finance director from Canal Fulton should send him the funds back to purchase the leftover equipment from Macedonia. Mr. Landon said that would be fine to purchase the excess equipment, but to make sure the invoice date is before the closing of the grant date of July 1. That's Scott's words. You looked at that, I'm sure, right? And then you also looked at our report from the interview with Mr. Sean Landon, did you not? You didn't mention that in the report. Sean Landon, first of all, he is not the grants administrator. You found that out, I'm sure. He didn't even start at ODNR when Scott allegedly made those calls. Mr. Landon further said he can't ever recall talking with Scott. And then he said he's 100% sure that he never discussed invoicing between the city of Macedonia and Canal Fulton. There's no way ever he would have ever had that conversation. He checked with his supervisor, and he confirmed that he never had any such conversation with Scott. No way anyone at ODNR would make such a statement to predate or postdate any kind of invoicing. Were you aware of that in your interviews with Sean Landon or anybody else there?
Yes.
Okay. You didn't find lying to counsel in his letter to counsel and his email, writing to his employers and saying on September 17, 2014, something that's a direct lie? That's not problematic for you? Maybe not criminal, but isn't it improper behavior of an employee?
I have no victim, and ODNR said that they do not want to pursue this issue. The kids got their fishing pole, and no money was personally taken. Now, whether you agree with that or not, I will leave that up to you. I'll leave it up to council to make that determination. For the record, I did not make a determination on that because ODNR did not want to be involved. I saw no reason to either way. There were other things to review that I was presented with.
Well, Mr. Dimoff,
That's up to council.
you don't think the victim is counsel in the administration when your key finance guy misrepresents to you the facts of somebody you talked to that gave him authority to do what he did? That wouldn't bother you as a CEO or the president or the mayor of a community when an employee lies?
I'm asked to find
That's the
out
victim.
if there was any.
Can I respond to that, Mr. Deemer?
No, you can't.
Okay.
But here's the bottom line, I will let council decide the value of that or the unvalue of it, because I simply did not go there, because ODNR did not want to pursue anything on it. And simply, I had nothing to go on as far as them complaining that Scott, if he did or didn't do it, I'll let council make that determination if it's proper or improper.
Okay, so in that email that you saw, Lars, from September 22nd, 2014, there are approximately 6 lies in what Scott told council and the administration about backdating that invoice. 6 lies. You dispute that?
I have no comment on that, because I did not look at that, I
Okay.
excluded that, it's in my report, I excluded it for
Okay.
known reasons.
Fine. Now let's talk about the auditor's report that you think, that you feel is cooperative of the fact that there was nothing done that was improper. Not criminal, improper. Now, did you look at that report in detail? Or did someone summarize it for
I
you?
think I got it summarized to me,
By Scott?
no,
By Sylvia?
maybe by Sylvia or Rita.
Okay.
I didn't.
So now, you didn't mention
I'm
any,
not part of it.
you didn't mention anywhere in your report the pertinent parts. All you did was say at the end, it is an issue for Macedonia officials to take up with Scott Staub. Do you remember that very last statement?
Yes,
And that it doesn't come to the level of criminal behavior. You remember that statement because you quoted it.
yeah.
Okay. Doesn't mean that it wasn't improper, does it? If something's not criminal, you still could be violating your oath of office, could you not?
Once again, that's the council to determine.
Okay, well, Eric Postel, the ODNR Aquatics Grant Supervisor, who was actually there, said in his auditor's report, this isn't my investigation, this is the auditor's investigation. He would never tell someone to change the dates on their paperwork to be in compliance with the grant. You didn't quote that. That's the state auditor's office saying that, right? The writer of this report reviewed the investigation of Macedonia's law department and confirmed that SVAB lied to them in regards to obtaining permission from ODNR to sell equipment from Macedonia to Canal Fulton. The employee SVAB referred to from ODNR, Sean Landon, never spoke with SVAB in his life. Now, do you remember reading that in the auditor's report? Or didn't you think that was important either?
I told you, ODNR, once again, I did not review that. I did not consider it in the accusations because ODNR didn't want to do anything about it. Once again, that will be up to council.
Is it because your goal was to exonerate Scott SVAB?
My goal was to get the truth.
Well, then why did you report these truths from a state agency record? Why didn't you report those?
For the last time, ODNR did not want to be involved in it. They were on.
They didn't revolve. I got the report.
Yeah, you got their report, and they said no money was stolen, the kids got their fishing poles, and moved on.
No, not move on. Quote, investigator Rudy for the auditor's office said, quote, SVAB may be guilty of being unethical, and in discussion with representatives of the law department and the state, the writer was told the Ethics Commission was forwarded a copy of this and also 8 other points from the auditor of state. So they deferred. Isn't that right? He said it may be unethical. You didn't report that in your report.
I took no stance on the ODNR.
Well, why wouldn't you take a stance from a state agency? You don't believe me, you don't believe Mary Beth Wirtz, who I don't know, ever didn't know, and I didn't confer with anyone for her hire. So why would you not quote an independent, neutral agency if you're neutral? Why wouldn't you?
Because, once again, ODNR did not want to pursue it.
They didn't want to pursue criminal. You weren't hired to just pursue criminal. You were hired any improper behavior.
Mr. Deemer,
Yes,
it's up to council to take that and they can
I see.
do the direction they want.
So you've done your job for the 3 councilmen and for Scott, and now you're going to leave it up to them.
No, I made a statement, the ODNR, we did not pursue it because of those certain facts. That was our decision. If council doesn't approve it or like it, they have the right to make a counter decision. All I'm doing is investigating to the best of our ability, facts and cases. We did as much as we could. We did not do it all. There are things that we did not pursue. I will continue to say it on the record. ODNR is one of the areas we did not pursue for reasons stated. There are other things that we did not pursue for reasons stated, and there were additional things discovered that we did not pursue.
All right, come on. You do
That's
say
it.
that time. You're just repeating what you said before. We heard all that before.
Well,
But
then,
why, you aren't answering
Why
me
did
as
you
to
guys-
why you didn't put it in the report. You were hired to be neutral. Your professional
I
reputation.
did put it in the report. I put in there that ODNR did not want to be involved in it, was happy with the fishing poles and the money wasn't
You're
taken.
repeating yourself. Why didn't you put in the things that I quoted from the report? If you want to be neutral and fair.
Because we did not examine that accusation and make a determination on it based on that.
But that was the accusation against him, that what he did in backdating invoices was improper.
Okay,
Now, that's what you were supposed to look into. Another state agency thought it was improper.
go ahead.
You didn't think it was worthy of putting in there.
Move to your next question, please.
Okay. Why wasn't the subject of this retroactive invoicing put into the polygraph questions? By the way, did you use the computer voice box or did you use an actual polygraph?
That's a good question. I will get you an answer on that because I don't know. I leave that up to the professional polygraph operators. I completely stay out of the polygraph. I don't suggest questions. I don't suggest techniques.
So they may have just used the computer voice box thing.
I don't know, but I doubt it, but I don't know.
You know, some members of this council have even questioned the validity of the voice box stress test, the truthfulness.
We could debate all day about
Yes.
polygraph.
Okay, do they work for you, this polygraph company? Are they your employees or are they an outside subcontractor?
I had a outside agency utilized for that. I wanted nothing connected to me. anything that was local, that was connected to anybody. I wanted a purely objective polygraph process, and that's what we did.
And what agency was that, or what company was that?
I don't have the, don't give it to me, I can get it for you in a second. I think I have it in my phone, or I can get back to you on that.
Okay. I mean, you quoted the polygraph results quite
Well,
regularly.
polygraph,
You think you'd remember who the company was?
polygraph can, you can debate polygraph for a long time. A lot of people have found.
But it changed your mind on Scott's Bob. You immediately said, now I know he's not guilty because he passed those questions you asked.
It was a combination of polygraph and interviews with former and current employees and seeing the pattern that was used, and for lack of a better description, I'll call it improper intimidation type stuff. And the actions that I'm getting reported from employees and previous employees, you know,
None of which you can name, is that right?
That is correct. HNS Polygraph Services.
HNS?
Yes, sir.
Are they out of Akron or?
Youngstown.
You know which technician actually did it?
Yeah, I can forward you that.
Okay. How many employees in your company, Mr. Dillon?
Between part-time and full-time, variety, there would be approximately 20-some employees. Sometimes it fluctuates a little higher. We're in the process of hiring military people from overseas for some additional security.
Mr. Dimoff, in the section I'm beginning on page 12, most of the next page you're just quoting Ms. Wertz, but it's the conflict in relative to the insurance company, the Stefano. On page 13, your investigative findings, and you said tonight there was confusion as to whether or not the Stefano was hired properly or whether they should have been rebid or not, and then you quoted Scott's July 2nd response to everyone. Is that pretty much it?
Yes, sir.
Now, you had indicated that Scott said there was confusion on whether 3 bids were needed to be taken on all services provided. Scott attempted to get bids from Travelers Insurance and others, and any official formal bids from taking place from these 2 additional insurance people. And then he went on to say that Scott told mayor and council, and you're quoting him as though this is the truth, told Joe Deemert and council that the liability insurance records of titles for the police vehicles and city vehicles that were overestimated and for which we were paying excess premiums because we didn't have those vehicles anymore, were actually in the service department. Now you recall there was thousands of dollars of premiums that we were paying for motor vehicles that were not actually in our fleet anymore, correct? Scott told you, and obviously told all of us, that that's the service department's fault. And you quoted that as though it's true. Do you believe that to be true? 30 vehicles excess premiums being paid for.
Once again, in my report, I am to report the facts.
That's what I want to talk about.
And
Did you know there was 30 vehicles involved?
I knew there was numerous vehicles.
And did you investigate to see whether or not the service department is in fact responsible for titles of vehicles that we insure in this community and every community?
I put it in the report once again because that's the information I was able to
Well,
obtain.
you understand my job is to test your report.
Yeah,
So-
I understand that, that's fine, I respect that. But I'm saying, I gather the information for the council. They take this information and they will have to digest it, just like the ODNR, this, and others, and determine whether that is a feasible,
I got you.
reason for it, and I'm presenting the facts very objectively,
Well,
and
that's what I want to test, your objectivity here. if you're presenting the facts as they are, did you check the charter to see if Scott told you the truth? Or did you check the Ohio Revised Code to see if Scott was telling you the truth? Or did you check with any other finance directors to see if Scott was telling the truth? That a service department is responsible for keeping the property list that we insure.
I put it in there for council to know what our decision was based on, for them then to digest and determine whether that is proper or improper. The other thing is, with the service department, I wasn't able to get any conversation with Mr. DiGatano.
Well, why didn't you put it in there, then it was in our report, and it was in Mary Beth Wertz's report, I assume, that there were 30 vehicles. In fact, we got a rebate on those premiums after I threatened a lawsuit, but we couldn't get 1 year because the statute of limitations had already expired, and we couldn't get that money back, so the city lost it. You were familiar with that episode?
Yeah, and that knowledge was already possessed
Oh, I see.
by the council.
But you
This was additional information for them to consider. Once again, my job is not to manipulate the facts, it's to present the facts. You know, and I can't take facts and manipulate them to pro or con, but I can report the facts, put them in the report. I'm not hiding anything Attorney Wirt said. I put her stuff right next to the same thing of our facts. I cut and pasted right there so there would be no discussion or thought that I'm trying to hide anything.
Well, you cut and pasted section, I don't know why you don't want to talk to me. They didn't ask the question.
I'm talking to everybody, including you.
On article number 6 of the charter, I'm just quoting facts here. It says the Department of Finance, section 6.03, duties in general, subparagraph E, finance director shall perform such other duties assigned by council or as required of the fiscal offices of municipalities pursuant to the statutes of the state of Ohio. You didn't report that fact. You either cut it out or overlooked it, right?
I think they already have that.
Well, the audit accounts and the finance director's obligations under the Ohio Revised Code shall prescribe the form of all accounts and reports to be rendered to the department and the form of method of keeping accounts by all other departments, and shall keep track under 731.11 of all property owned by the city. All property owned by the city under the finance department. Now, he told you service department was supposed to do it. Why wouldn't you check that fact out and find that in fact, that's not the law? The law requires him to keep track of all those vehicles.
When the paperwork was not at his location and was at another location, and the fact that council already had that information that you just read here, my job as an investigator is not to tell people everything they already know.
No, they asked you to confirm whether or not the findings the administration made were true or not, and you chose to not even support any of the allegations with what the facts are.
Hey, Joe, excuse me a minute, Joe, or Mr. Deemer, I should say, I'm sorry. Mr. Deemer, I did research that, and all,
Well, then you can
in
testify later.
in almost all the cities, it is kept in the service department. It's their responsibility to keep track of all the vehicles, what we own and what we don't own,
What
and
we
then
call
they give
this
it.
is helping your witness.
They have to
out.
update
Can I
it.
just ask
Sherry
a question?
Kuzma confirmed that with me, and then you update all of
I'll
that.
question you later, but
Okay,
let me
so-
finish with your witness so we can get out of here.
Well, I'm telling you the facts,
We're
that it
gonna
is
talk
kept
a
in the
lot, we're
service
gonna talk a
department.
lot more. So, did you interview any of the prior finance directors in the city of Macedonia, the last 2 or 3, about these issues? Didn't you think that would be important that his immediate predecessors and how they handled just this one issue of the list of property in the inventory would be important for you to know? That's not important?
Mr. Deemer, I appreciate your question. The only thing I can tell you is, I spent $8,000 over.
They didn't give you enough money.
They didn't give me
And you
enough
should
money,
check that.
and they didn't give me enough time, and I'm not asking for more money. What I'm saying is, I did an investigation on a lot of the accusations, We found out a lot. We provided a lot.
Okay, but I don't wanna go into all that other stuff. Let's
Information.
stick to this issue. I know you
It
wanna
falls-
keep repeating.
No, it falls underneath there.
It doesn't.
We found,
I asked you if you
we
talked to
provided,
finance.
we provided additional information for the council to consider along with the previous information
About everybody except
that was
the
obtained.
man you were supposed to be investigating.
We provided plenty about
Well, then why
Scott.
didn't you talk to prior finance directors? You would have found out that the fleet of vehicles has always been kept in the finance department prior to Mr. Spot. You didn't know that because you didn't ask anybody, right?
No, we didn't talk to anybody
Okay,
previously.
and you know that the reason for that is they use the inventory of equipment and vehicles and property to get insurance specifications out, so we can get lawful quotes on our insurance for property and vehicles. And this time, we didn't get it, because Scott gave them 30 more vehicles than we actually owned. Do you find that at all to be an improper action on an employee who lost taxpayer dollars?
What, I can appreciate your question. What I find improper is, I submitted a report with information of facts and information of additional stuff that should be looked at. I think this report should be taken by yourself and council, and you should make a list of those additional questions or investigations you want that are a result of my investigation that cause you to want to know more, and I would be more than happy to pursue those additional facts of information if that's what you want. But if you're going to ask me questions all night on stuff that
Well,
we
you
do not...
talked for 65 minutes, I've only had a half an hour.
Listen, I understand, Mr. Deaver.
So let me just get to
but
my points.
Let's talk about what we reported, because I will continuously,
We
in
will-
respect to you,
We will
I
stipulate,
will
you didn't
tell
get enough
you-
money, and you had plenty of waivers in here where you say none of this has been tested or verified. We understand that, so we'll stipulate to that, you don't need to repeat that.
This is why nothing gets done.
But let me go to the next area, the
Thank
tree
you.
fund.
Thank you.
You spoke at length about the tree fund, and you said Scott told you that the monies were erroneously placed by the building department in the bottom drawer. Again, somebody else's fault, not Scott's. And you pretty much quoted that as being gospel, right?
I had a young lady that is the one that went and found it. She's the one that found it in the bottom drawer.
Okay.
And I don't know how you and council interpret that, but here you're looking for a tree fund. Yeah, it's in the wrong fund. Yeah, it's in the wrong drawer, in the wrong department. And are we gonna split hairs on this thing?
Well, no, let's not split hairs. Let's
It's in
talk
the
about
wrong
the facts.
department, in the wrong drawer, in the wrong area.
Yeah.
And after you discover the fund, you find out that there's no money misappropriated or no money that was stolen, let's say, okay? And that money in that tree fund is taken care of. Now, if council is not happy with what we found out,
We will stipulate all that
then
too.
they'll do
so
something.
Let me
They
have my.
can make their decision.
Okay, now, had you investigated further and asked questions, I know you didn't have the time or the money to do so, but the same revised code sections under 733.12, which our charter adopts, require the finance director to prescribe the form of accounts and reports to be rendered from every department and the method of keeping accounts by all other departments. That's state law. Another 733.11. The finance director is responsible for all monies received and expended. That's the same section as all property. So when you say somebody misplaced it, isn't that the finance director's responsibility? Isn't that the fact that the revised code puts that burden on him? Not on the building commissioner?
Let me respond.
No,
You're twisting,
you cannot.
you're twisting the facts
Well,
again.
yes, look who's twisting the
Yeah,
facts.
you're twisting them again.
Now, you want to take over for your investigator, huh?
No, you want the truth or you want to play legal lawyer?
Yes, well,
We want
indeed,
the truth.
indeed, Mr. Deaver
We want
has
the
been twisting
testing questions.
attorneys.
All right,
I'll move on to the next one.
thank you.
Where you got the,
65 minutes, I promise you that.
Well, I just wanted,
Okay.
Mr. Ladd to be able, and the mayor to be able to make comments if they needed to.
The time clock issue that you reported about, you indicated that it was a pilot test program. Where did you get that information?
From Scott.
That's page 15. So Scott told you it was a pilot test program.
It was a test program for 1 out of 3 locations.
And you didn't look at any legislation or other documentation or quotations that would include those terms, pilot test program, could you? You wouldn't find anything there.
Once again, we keep repeating this, and I keep saying the same thing. My job was to report the facts that we found, the opinions we found, the statements we found, report it in a report. This report is for the digestion of the council. They can weigh the facts any way they want,
Well,
and that will be their determination. I
okay,
put in here what we found.
okay. That's all you need
That's
to say,
it.
that's all.
What you said.
Now, Scott told you, and you repeated in your report, that it's under $25,000, so no bid was required. You repeated that from Scott, didn't you?
No, I wasn't sure on that, and I put in there was confusion on this bid process, and I still, to this day, it's one of those areas I don't know.
The only confusion I suggest, Mr. Dimoff, is what people have caused you to have, is confusion. Did you look at ordinance number 9-2013? A lawfully adopted ordinance by the city council on April 4th, 2013, certified copies of it, clearly say the finance director is directed to advertise for bids for the purchase. What about that is confusing?
I was told that there is a limit under bids by several people that said, is there not a bid limit? And I said, I don't know, and I kept hearing this 25,000, and that's why I put it in a report.
But your
for
professional,
clarity.
your professional reputation is at stake. You want to be right on these things. Wouldn't you say, well, where's the legislation? Let me look at that, Scott. You're telling me under 25 you don't need to bid. This is a law adopted by this council, and it directed him to advertise for bids. You could have easily said to him, 25,000 don't matter. This council directed you to advertise for bids. It's a law. You didn't do that, did you?
No, in my
He
report,
received 3 bids, by the way. He did receive 3. So just-
Advertise for bids. I'll cross-examine you next.
Well, let's,
Then in this ordinance, this same law goes on in section 1 to say, after the receipt of such bids, the same shall be analyzed by the Department of Finance and submitted to council for final award of a contract to the lowest and best bidder. And do you know that didn't happen? He just brought it in the box, and you say it was a test program.
my understanding, it was a test program.
So it's likely you got this information.
If I did,
It is.
council be-
Now, you know, and you probably found, that through the efforts of the law department, we went and got back all the money, even the 1/3 he calls now a test program, because it was a lawfully signed contract by him to bring in those things, and the company knew it, admitted it, and paid us back 100%. The check for $3,170 was returned to the taxpayers here. Did you find that out in your investigation? That's a fact.
Was not told that.
Okay. You would think that a company thought they had a lawful right and they were doing a lawful test program, they wouldn't just give you back $3,000, would they?
I'm glad to hear you got the money back.
Yeah.
Mr. Deemer,
I
can
would like you to have the opportunity to hear the sides of the story.
Yeah,
Maybe you'll change your-
Mr. Deemer, Mr. Dimoff contacted the mayor to come in here and be
Mayor, can I have a point of
interviewed.
order here? I'm
And
in the
he
middle of
was
my.
denied.
I didn't interrupt you
He
guys.
was denied though, so just so let's get
You
it
know what, we
straight.
could have interrupted several times and we gave
Well,
the
I'm
courtesy to
Making
talk.
sure that the facts are full
Courtesy
here.
should be kept here
We came
for
here
us
again.
to say something. Joe has received all the
Well,
above.
also, Mr. Dimoff didn't have the privilege of getting records from the city because you wouldn't allow him in here.
He
So
had a right
let's
to all
make that
records. You had them all.
statement.
Everybody, yeah,
Oh.
everybody had.
All right, let me move on if I may here.
Not when it comes from your administration, they don't.
No.
I'm still waiting for my records.
Yeah, well, how about 103 records requests in 2 months?
Let's prove it.
Can I ask you a question?
No, please, let me go.
No, this is within the same question. It says in here, part of a pilot test program. Was that within the language of the legislation, that it was a pilot test program. No, it was not. Second of all, on July 2nd, Scott Spot emailed a response to all Council Mayor Joe Deemer that the time clocks were returned and the mayor and council approved a prorated refund. Were all clocks returned? Thank you. We got a call saying there was still one floating around that we found.
Well, it's okay, we still got our money for them anyway.
I'm glad you guys communicate with, Nick Monar and Jan Tully over there, because this, you know.
Just like the three of you do every week.
No, that's what you think, Jan.
Okay, can the administration be allowed to proceed, please? Near the end of your report, and that means I'm getting near the end of my questions, Mr. Dillon. I'm sure you're happy to hear. You had mentioned Betsy McCafferty as somebody that wasn't talked to or wasn't really confided in and confided in you in a number of things. And you quote her and say, towards the end of this investigation, it was discovered that several employees had confided to HR Director Betsy McCafferty about various unfair management practices. The employees stated Betsy listened, but they did not get the feeling that she was capable of doing anything about these. You used the word widespread concerns, but again, you can't give us any names of those employees, can you? Or you won't?
Well, I can't because they request confidentiality.
And do they have a right of confidentiality, you think?
Absolutely.
And under what theory do they have a confidential informant status here?
Whistleblower.
I mean, you have a police background, right? You know you have to qualify a confidential informant. Do you know of any authority for them to have confidentiality? And yet you report them and use their words to malign people about conflicts, unethical, criminal behavior, but you won't say the names of the people who attribute that behavior?
As the report reflects, there are some people that did give their names that did have interviews, and obviously there were ones that didn't. I respect those that didn't, and I will continue to respect.
Page 26, you said Betsy had talked about many employees and blah, blah, blah. And then on page 34, you say, current employees reported that Mr. Digitano is very vindictive, bad temper, a power control freak, and a compulsive liar. You won't give us the names of those employees, even though such vile statements are written down on your report, will you?
No,
You have such disrespect for another human being that you will not, you repeat words that you don't know,
You just reported.
you just heard from somebody.
Once again, essence to your question, I appreciate your question, but you're asking me about the credibility of Mr. Digitano when
No, I'm asking you about things Betsy told me.
you're asking about the credibility of Mr. Digitano when we have a tape recording that he's instructing his people on how to use city equipment and work on their cars in the city building, and you want me to respect the fact that
I
these
know.
confidential informants
Mr.
were lying
Mr.
about
Dibas,
his credibility and integrity?
Just like Scott and Sylvia, you turn around and you attack other people. The question was, did Betsy McCafferty give you names of people?
My job's not to attack Mr.